right, it's going. So if we skip the minutes, then we would basically go to discussing
Dispersing
possible-
information.
yeah, and so that's more of a logistics kind of thing, or not just that, but how to go about if we want to try to have private haulers come together. Pete, this is kind of, I guess, the vague discussion we had with Bruce Burrow when we were kind of talking about what direction to go.
Actually, before we discuss that, we need to discuss what we're going to distribute. And I still don't think we've nailed that. I really don't. If I listen to people that have been around me in the last month, the big question I get over and over when they find out I know anything about trash is recycling real? And I really think that if we have an initial first message, it doesn't include waste haulers. It includes letting people know that there really is such a thing in Jefferson County as recycling.
I don't disagree with that, Sandra. I think that we have those two buckets of people that we need to hit, and we hit them in different ways. And I think that we can do two things at once in that regard. What are we going to distribute as it pertains to people recycling better? Those are to existing recyclers. And then the other track may be a totally different method because they're obviously not recycling, so we can't use cart-based education. But we take a different track to handle that.
I don't disagree with you at all. The second thing I get over and over is, where can I recycle what? And so I started looking around, and I have not found one comprehensive list of every place people can take things in Jefferson County and what those individual places will take. And so I think there are baby steps before big steps. And in terms of the waste haulers, I keep thinking that what we need to do is ask them the question, how can we help you make your recycling more effective? Giving them something to distribute coming from us doesn't necessarily deal with the differences that they're seeing, their users.
Well, as far as Karen probably knows better than anybody about lists of what's recyclable and where. The Waste District spends money each year on Recycle Coach, and it has a what goes where app, and you can type in any material, and it will tell you where you could take it.
I know, but getting people to Recycle Coach automatically creates a very much smaller group of participants than other methods that could use. I have no problems with that, but the number of people that will sit there and use a computer, I'm finding is smaller and smaller than I ever thought it was. And I think what that ends up doing, it ends up focusing our communications to a certain part of the population and not other parts.
And therein lies the
dilemma.
Very difficult situation.
I totally agree with you.
You know, I think that like we've always talked about, we have to hit people in 3 or 4 different ways. The cart-based, the Recycle Coach, social media, and websites. And we can't get everybody to pay attention. But, you know, if we hit them enough times, maybe we get somebody to click or take a look and download something. So anybody that, you know, we got, again, when it comes to what is recyclable and where, the bucket that we're taking from are really the top two, the people that they want to recycle better if somebody guides them to it. And then you've got the avid recycler that's willing to walk over hot coals to figure out where they take their stuff. So those are going to be the people that they're going to take that extra step of coming, downloading recycle. The other ones, they're going to have to be a little bit more convinced, the ones that are skeptical. And that is, you have to hit them multiple times and from different directions. So I think that's what we need to do. The people that aren't recycling now, those are a different bucket that have to be handled in a different way.
You know
Yeah, I
something?
think
Some of that we could, expanding on what, because I totally agree with everything you just said. If there was a list, that list could be put in a lot of places that people who are not going to sit there on a computer could access. For example, it could go in an article in the Courier Journal. It could be distributed to all of the small cities. And, if we had a list, rather than looking for people to participate, there are lots of places we can put that list.
when you say a list of locations, I think like drop-off locations, are you talking about, maybe you're talking about them all, but like, are you talking about places to recycle just household recyclables or get rid of things like batteries or plastic
All of the
bags?
above. Because there's a finite number of locations, right? I mean, I have to very often ask you folks where I can recycle something. And I think we can provide information broader than we do. I think Recycle Coach is terrific, but I also think I don't know anybody on my little street that would use it. And yet they're all sophisticated people. And in general, they want to recycle. So I think that the message, I agree with what Pete said, the message is to go out in a lot of different venues.
So the Recycle Coach method is more like I have this thing I need to get rid of, so I'm going to search it and see where to take it.
Mhm.
And what you're saying is more like here's all the places you could take things,
And here's
this is
what you
they
can take, right? And here's the addresses, here's the dates or the hours that open, that kind of thing.
So
It's still kind of boring stuff.
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sandra. Are you finished?
Mhm.
Okay. Why don't we create the buckets? Curbside, collateral, newsletter collateral, social media collateral, website, and things that can be downloaded and placed wherever by whomever, such as a home rule city, if they want to. If we make it known that these are all of their tools, almost like a toolkit. Here's all your tools. You can pull these things down and utilize them for your home rule city or whatever.
Yeah,
Does
I
that
think
make
you can go past that. These could be handouts in libraries. Libraries are getting things to hand out all the time, and most of them have a table right near the front. I mean, I think that I think you've looked at the buckets, but I think that besides the buckets, there's other ways to distribute information.
Yeah, I think that we have a lot of that that we already utilize at little events. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Karen probably has a lot of them at the libraries already. I might be throwing you out there a little bit, Karen.
Well, probably not what Sandra's thinking of, because we've done more,
Encouraging.
yeah, we've
Yeah.
mostly given things out when we're there. Um, like at events, and we do go to libraries and teach classes, and we bring things with us then. But we don't necessarily, we haven't really posted things at the libraries, except, you know, as we've only done it once, but like our litter campaign posters, things like that, those kinds of things can go up at libraries. But yeah, I mean, I feel like we're, like Pete said, constantly having to try to hit people in lots of different ways. And there's no one big thing to do, I guess. And we just have to do it all. But I do like the idea of toolkits and things that are that can be utilized by community leaders. And maybe all the citizens aren't going on our website all the time, you know, looking up things, but if there's a community leader that knows exactly where to find things that can be printed or even requested from us, then maybe that needs to be a little more obvious. As far as curbside, I know we've kind of talked more about accepted items and trying to match those lists, but I do, when you mentioned drop-offs, it did make me kind of wonder about cart-based education that is more specific to what not to put in the cart and where to take that. And that kind of goes to what we talked about last month with batteries. You know, that's a huge thing we don't want in the cart. Plastic bags, of course, we always talk about that, but maybe that's something where the haulers could get involved too. That was something we did not disagree on, was things that are detrimental.
So Karen, can we pull up the recycle right tags?
Yep.
Because I mean, that's basically cart-based education. And we've used it both inside and outside of the USD.
Well, and I like them. I think the one where you tell people that they've done a good job is terrific. I love that one.
Yeah, let me pull up both.
So we have the Recycle Right program, which is very I won't say personal, but it's right there at their fingertips. But and then you have general education that's not necessarily going to be limited to having somebody go out and do the research. I mean, that's basically what it's taken, and I don't think that any of the either Rumpke or Westrock have an issue with the items on there. Correct me if I'm wrong, Karen.
No.
So, I mean, this is basically cart or that is the cart-based education, put simply. You know, is there a letter that goes with this? Maybe. Is there, do we on this side, you know, we have the Recycle Right program that would use the OOPS part, but if it's just tagging and anybody tagging, then maybe we put on this other side hard to recycle items or items. Well, we have the items not accepted. Do we tell them where they can take it though? Oh, it's got the recycle coach.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's a lot for a tag to put exactly where to take all of these things. So we chose to make it use the Recycle Coach app to learn how to properly dispose of these items.
So I would propose that we basically utilize something like that for curbside education that can be used that can be placed on any cart in Jefferson County that is a recycling cart. And
Yeah, I mean, the way we use these is more a program where we're tracking to make sure that things are changing, but there can still be educational material that can be left on a cart even without tracking change, right?
right, that's what that's what.
Yeah.
And it can be made. It could be made hauler specific. And if you go by and you've got somebody that's got a waste management cart, as long as waste management's approved of it. Then we whip out a waste management one and put that on the cart. If it's, you know, if it's hometown, we do the same thing.
Yeah, we could do that. I still think it wouldn't hurt for us to have a meeting with them and ask them if this is what they want us to do.
No, I think that we more or less discussed that. That's what Karen was referencing when we had a meeting with Bruce Burrow, is that we would have the curbside collectors come in and kind of go over what we have to offer, what we're trying to do, and what we have to offer, and to hear their suggestions on helping get the information out. Some of it is probably just the fact that they don't know what their resources truly are. And I'll be honest with you. I believe that some of the haulers, it's not the majority, and I'm not going to name any names, but they're really not too interested in having to collect recycling. They would prefer to just have one service. So it'd be an interesting meeting, and but it shouldn't. The reason that they don't have education material out there should not be because they don't know what it is or how to get to it or have the resources to it. We can print them. The waste district can print them. They don't have any cost. We can provide those to them as long as everybody's agreed that the material is pertinent to every hauler. We can brand it to the hauler's name or not. Maybe they don't want that, but that would be hauler specific. So if we agree on that, then basically we have some curbside collateral that we can start using relatively quickly after
Well,
we.
the second issue attached to that is how would the waste haulers do it? That the waste haulers can't stop and stuff every mailbox or whatever we're choosing. For example, the recycling in my community is done with a one-man truck and a mechanical arm. So we've got a distribution issue when we start talking about that.
Yeah, I would say that that the haulers can do that if they want to. If they can't,
Well, but we could also find another venue. I mean, we can find another distribution method.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if we have a home rule city or an HOA that's interested in doing that, which
Yeah, we could find a way to do it. I agree.
We can hopefully get some recycling champions in that neighborhood.
I agree.
Take them to it. Possibly even taking them on a tour of the recycling facility.
Well,
So-
I've been doing that. I've got a small little group now that we're going to do in April. I've just added another person to it, Karen.
Okay.
Every
That's
time
awesome.
somebody says to me, is recycling real? I am now telling them they can come and look at trash with me.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that any and all of the options out there, they can distribute it themselves. They can distribute it. Well, let me go back. That is for existing recyclers. So then we have new recyclers, which at that point, the hauler doesn't necessarily have a distribution issue because they're delivering the cart. All we would have to do is get them to put something with that cart when they
Right.
distribute it. So we might want to look at what that collateral could look like.
Good idea.
So we got those two methods to cover existing and new. And we also have the more quality control through the Recycle Right program. So at that point, I think we're hitting curbside pretty daggone good. Agree?
I agree with you. Anybody else? We've kind of dominated the conversation. Anybody else want to make a contribution or tell us we're wrong?
I did like the idea of toolkits. I feel like it's something that has come up and I just need to dedicate some time to that. But I wouldn't mind putting together some digital, this is digital, Sandra, but something that can be shared easily to community leaders or to say, hey, oh, do you lead, your neighborhood meeting? I mean, I'll go to any neighborhood meeting and talk to them and bring some stuff, but sometimes it's nice just to say,
No, I
oh,
agree with you. And if you do it simple enough, there are others of us that could do it too. We'd be happy to.
yeah, okay,
Don't make it too complicated.
no.
So we have curbside. What was one of our other buckets?
Well,
Well, when you
also,
mentioned-
you're doing a very good job digitally. And so I think we've got, in a way, both ends of the spectrum. And it's the middle now.
What's in the middle?
No,
How about the non-recycler? The skeptic.
I'll tell you, the non-recyclers, as I told you a while back, we have totally changed what we're doing here. And I've gone from watching my little tiny survey to all 11 houses recycled, and now we're down to 4 or 5. And there are 2 issues. One is the issue that we've just talked about, what's recyclable, because we've had some new people come in. But the other issue is when. And I had somebody ask me today, what do you do if you don't put your cart out every whatever? It just, the when is another component of this thing. Because now we're down to every 2 weeks instead of every Thursday, and that confuses people because it's not like the same weeks of every month floats.
I don't disagree with you that that's an issue. When we went to every other week, it causes confusion. For some, it was a capacity issue. For others, it's I don't know what the heck that's when to set it
It's
out.
a financial issue with us.
So, I don't know how we approach it because it's going to vary so much based upon the area that you're in. If you're an HOA, if you're a subscription.
Yeah, it's nothing we can solve in a conversation today. It's just another thought to put into the process.
Yeah, my initial thought of it, and I know we're not going to solve it today, is that when a new cart is delivered, that you could make sure that you have a schedule contained within that literature that they can put in the fridge, or some kind of a consistent scheduling thing that they could use. That's one thing. And then on the other side of things, if you had a HOA that wanted just the information put on the carts, then you can attach some kind of a schedule to that, that could potentially help them. But we need to know what that looks like so that it's simple enough for people to utilize.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Not for me. I think I'm all talked out.
The next item on the agenda is the draft, the recycling survey for residents. And I have to be honest with you, Karen and I have been working on this one, and I'm not sure it's ready for prime time or for a lot of discussion. I think that I don't think we've focused it enough. I don't think it's targeted enough to get a response yet. I think the concept that we need to ask people about recycling is part of why I think we can be more effective when people tell us what we need to do to educate them. And I think that that's what we're trying to accomplish, and we're not there yet.
With the survey, you mean? That's what we're
Yeah.
trying to, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I did, and I don't have to share it if you don't think it's ready.
Yeah.
But I was trying to come up, I mean, I was gonna need some feedback. But I was trying to make it kind of check a list, like here's some ideas, and then you can also share your ideas. But so I don't know, but of like what would help you recycle more? Or, and then of course, why don't you recycle? Because if you put out a survey, you might get people who don't recycle. So,
But we might
That's-
not. I think one of the things that we could get some feedback on now is if we just do this digitally, we've lost a huge portion of the population. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I think we can do it. But where other than through different kinds of digital methods can we ask these questions? One of the digital methods, Karen does a very good job on Nextdoor. And I think once we develop something that we think accomplishes that, I don't think you'll get 1 million responses, but I think you will get responses like what you were talking about. Why don't you recycle? I think that kind of a person will answer you. But other than things like that, how else can we get responses from people?
well, I mean, digitally, it's so much easier if you have a survey digitally because that helps you when you're looking at the results as well. That doesn't mean you can't enter those in later if you had a paper survey. We've done things at like setting up at I mean, like the West End, sometimes we don't get as much response as we want. So we go to them. We've set up at the Kroger on Broadway and tried to get people to talk to us, although I don't even know if that's always the best option. I never want to talk to people when I go to the grocery, but you know, just the idea of going to where people are. I think it helps if there's some sort of incentive. Like come take our survey. But that's kind of when I mentioned about having the zip code on there, it's like I want to make sure we're getting people from all of the county that are taking the survey. Or if we seem to, you know, if I put it out digitally, you might see a heavy area zip code wise that maybe nobody got it. So somehow you can target that and maybe try to get council people to share or go to meetings, community meetings, and make it available.
You know, as you were saying that, I was just thinking of some things. I looked at my calendar before we started, and I can think of some places that I'm going to take it and force people to answer. And you're right. The council people also, the cultural council people all seem now to have coffees and things like that. And I think that we could get some of them to help us get feedback. So yeah, I appreciate what you just said. But again,
I was going to add to that. I was
pardon?
going to add to that too. The council people, some have it in their newsletters and some don't.
I agree.
Some never talk about it with anybody and others do. And I think we should ask them all to do it. And if they're not, ask them why they're not doing it. Because it's a city thing. You know, it should be part of their job. So I think meetings and council people are the key. Yeah.
Could you give us a list of the ones that are not doing it? If you notice it?
Well, I get 2 newsletters, but I have to think about it. But like District 8, Ben Reno Weber is super. I don't want to cut anything against him, but his newsletter never mentions recycling. Pat Mulvihill, District 10, it's in every newsletter, but the newsletters are 85 pages
98
long, and it's a little
It's
thing.
on the bottom. Yeah, I hear
Pardon?
you.
Yeah.
We can certainly talk individually to them if we know that it's not. I have been talking to my district person because his newsletter I didn't think was as good as some of the others that I saw. And it's amazing how much better, in my mind anyway, it's getting over time. So if we knew who needed to be contacted to bring them on board, I don't think that would be bad at all.
Should we go to a board meeting and talk to all, say, ask everybody, raise your hand if you ever promoted recycling, raise your hand if you've never promoted it, that type of a thing. Say why.
I doubt that they're gonna raise their hand or.
I
Yeah.
know, I'm
Great.
joking, but some method
Great.
of interacting with them. I don't know. I don't go to the meetings anymore. I haven't been to a meeting in a long
Yeah,
time.
I don't think we get very far with that, but a phone call to the individual person or their assistant might get us somewhere.
I think that's probably the key. I mean, we try to get things put in the newsletters constantly, and some are just not interested. Some don't even have, some don't know how to do it. It's a matter of they don't know how to do a newsletter, an effective newsletter. And I think maybe that is part of the issue. You know, maybe something that could be explored, and maybe we can make a suggestion, is that if there was a template that Metro Council districts could take to help them do a newsletter, then we can improve newsletters all across the community if we make it easier for them to do.
Right. Have a template and say, please spread this out, but don't make them do the work to do it. Right. That's good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a
we
good
kind
idea.
of already have that method just because it's through Gov Delivery. All the council people have the option to send a newsletter through that, and it is kind of a template. And I do, I add things into the works week, and I can tell because Greg, I also get, I don't get everybody's, but I do get a lot of newsletters, and I'll just sort of glance through them, and I can tell when they have grabbed my information I've added into the works week and then placed it into their newsletter, which is really nice for me because I know it's getting shared, and it's nice for them because they didn't really have to come up with the idea. They just copied it over.
That calendar,
Saving
like,
is
the calendar of
savings
January,
in a
February,
minute.
March, here's recycling one week, yard waste next week, recycling. I think that's great. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, for the winter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
would
it's
be good.
updated every quarter.
Yeah, I mean, after that, it's the same. I mean, I guess I can have a calendar up, but that's what Recycle Coach is for too.
Right.
Good. Anything else we should be talking about? Is there anybody from the public who would like to talk to us about anything?
Sandra, Jerry, if I may, for a couple of minutes.
Sure.
This is probably more for Karen. Some of the things that you've got that you can pass out. If you could take some of those to some of the home rule cities and homeowners associations, most of those have tables for citizens, residents to come in. They're seeking information. That would be a very inexpensive way of just getting some of the information out to those areas. The other thing, there was a comment made earlier about a tour of recycling facilities in April. As some of you know, I'm working with the Eastwood area, Eastern Jefferson County, as they are trying to incorporate into a new city. I would like, if we could, to get 2 or 3, maybe 4 of those people onto one of the tours, because they're going to be dealing, we're already beginning to get into how we're going to handle the garbage recycling and everything for that city. And we're looking at 28,000 population out there. So I think that would be very beneficial to everybody to get some of them on one of those tours. To me, it was tremendous education to go on those tours.
Yeah, so
That's
with
an
the
excellent
tours,
idea.
that is good. And I know Laura's on here. I have a standing monthly tour from March to November that allows 10 people. So I have a sign up Genius link for that. But I know if you had a group of 10 or less that was just you all and you wanted to schedule with Laura, I'm sure she would help with that as far as a special tour. But often it's like, one person that might be interested or something. You can certainly share a link to sign up. And it is important to use the sign up so that we don't overbook ourselves. And then we can share, you see all the details about how to dress and things like that. So Jerry, I can email you that link. And then if you need Laura's contact info, Laura, did you want to?
I was just going to
Yeah.
chime in and say, yeah, Jerry, if it's something that you'd like to schedule a tour for that group specifically, we can certainly accommodate. It's great if it's, I don't know, let's say 3 or 4 people, better to just jump in on one of Karen's tours, but especially if I think you had indicated that one of the, like the March tour may already be close to full. So if you'd want to come in sooner than April, like we can work towards that. So
I think April will be fine. I won't be back in Louisville till about the latter part of March. And I'd like to kind of go along as a whatever to assist them with that group. And I'll talk with them and see if we can start looking at number of people, how many, and see if we can set something up like that. I think we need to start getting some communication between the 109 board and its committees and that area, because it's going to be a significant impact on county government, I think, if we have a new city of that size. And thank you.
absolutely happy to have anybody to our facility as needed. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the only reason we picked April is it's too cold still in March.
that's fair.
Thank you. Is there anything else, Jerry?
No, that's all that I have today. Thank you.
I noticed in the announcement that this is the last education subcommittee meeting. I didn't know we were defunct after this month. Would you like to
So,
explain that?
yeah, it's kind of like we said with the contract subcommittee. We had, when we started after the 5-year plan was approved, we felt that there was a lot of work to be done on very specific things. So we split up the 2 subcommittees and only met as a full committee every other month. But at this point, our very specific items on our agendas are kind of slowing down and not as much. And it feels like it might take even longer to wait for an advisory committee to get things done. So we think that the full advisory committee being monthly can move things along just fine that need to go toward the board. So that doesn't mean we won't talk about educational things, but we would do it as a full committee. So we'll go ahead and have our next full advisory committee this month, which is next week. And then after that, we won't meet as subcommittees, but we'll just meet as a full committee monthly.
What I would keep in mind that at any time, if we come up with a topic that needs to be subcommittee, we can jump back into that.
Yeah, if it has some specific focus, we could totally make another subcommittee, but we just kind of wanted to start fresh with the full committee in February.
Yeah, I think the subcommittees have value when we're talking about details. Because when you start talking about that in a large committee, it doesn't always successfully come to fruition. You've already done the announcements of the next meetings. The only one you missed was the 109 board meeting on the 4th Wednesday of the month. Other than that, we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to adjourn, huh?
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks. And Marie was a second. All those in favor? All right, we're adjourned, and thank you all very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
guys.
Goodbye. Take care.